Oh, thank you for joining us. So let's talk about this tentative deal. It sees raises in two stages for staff who aren't doctors, €90 in September, the same sum next March. This for the public sector, also some 15,000 jobs created. So what's your reaction?
Hello, well, thank you for receiving me. My reaction is that the salary of junior doctors is very insufficient in France. We are currently paid less than the minimum wage per hour, and we currently work about 60 hours per week on average, and our salaries are totally insufficient. And the current negotiations so far haven't satisfied us with the amount proposed by the government.
So what would you like to see happen?
We would like to have at least, so our plan is not to, we cannot consider any improvement in our salaries below the minimum wage per hour. So if their propositions are still below that level, we won't be able to come to an agreement. So our propositions now are accounting of working hours for French junior doctors, which very often work way more than the planned hours. So as I said, on average 60 hours, but for surgical specialties, often very, very much more so. I'm an ophthalmology resident and I already work a lot, but I have colleagues in visceral surgery or neurosurgery that would work maybe 80, 90, 100 hours per week and are paid less than the minimum wage in France.
So just to clarify, this tentative deal that was reached doesn't concern doctors, but the talks that have been held with doctors, they've stalled then? There's been no progress made?
There has been very little progress made. So the government planned all these talks as to justify discussions, to say, yes, we have come to an agreement to improve their salaries, but in reality, the improvements made are very insufficient for junior doctors and for the medical personnel, healthcare personnel in France in general. So you have to know that currently the workforce hospitals, public hospitals in France, are residents or junior doctors. If you go to the emergency department tomorrow, your chances are about 100% that you will be entirely reviewed and taken care of by an intern or resident. If our salaries and working conditions are not enough and sufficient, the hospitals cannot work, and thus the healthcare system in France cannot be efficient, leaving a huge part of the population, especially the poorer population, with very, very much insufficient and unsatisfying ways to treat them.
So considering all of this, if France were to see a second wave, of course, that's the concern heading into autumn, that there might be a second wave. Do you think that medical staff, because of the way they're being treated or mistreated, in your opinion, won't be able to cope, or rather, of course, they'll get on with their jobs? But what are your concerns about the second wave, considering all of this?
So, yes, absolutely. There is a risk, a considerable risk for a second wave. The risk is that if the healthcare personnel is not considered and respected enough in terms of salary and working conditions, the risk is that the population that will address them with issues related to the COVID virus will be insufficiently treated, or maybe, who knows, maybe one patient might die while he shouldn't have, just because one junior doctor or anything has not been able to provide the healthcare needed because of lack of funding. That's the issue now that we're encountering in France, and it's pretty much an emergency. So to let you know, junior doctors in France will, if the working conditions stay like that, they will take the risk to emigrate to other countries like Switzerland, where the wages are about 4 times higher. So France will lose its potential in junior doctors, and in case of a second wave, we'll encounter huge, severe problems on the healthcare system.
All right. Well, thank you.